Okay, we're here July 12th, 2020, sorry, 2020.
You jump back a decade.
With the Donaldsons. We're sad that they'll be leaving us soon, and Tom and I wanted to get here and be able to record some of their experiences and hear a little bit about their stories. So to begin with, why don't you introduce yourselves to the camera? Tell us a little bit about your growing up years, how you met each other, and just take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Rosie Donaldson. I grew up in Wenatchee, Washington. Stayed there my whole up until I went off to college.
How many siblings?
I was
What are you going to say?
I'm one of 6. I was number 4. And great family, great parents, great siblings. Growing up, I did a lot of music and a lot of sports, I would say. Those are probably the 2 things that were what I loved. So I started off playing the piano and then got into playing percussion, and my favorite instrument's the marimba. It's awesome. And a lot of it was just like with my siblings. Since I was number 4, they had, a lot of interest themselves, and so if one of them thought I would be into it, they would just kind of lead the way, and so I tried a lot of things and was able to do that, so it was really awesome. So it's the same with sports. I played everything: swimming, basketball, volleyball, softball.
Now in volleyball, weren't you all-state or?
Yeah,
all-state volleyball.
I was in
wow.
high school. And so that was kind of, I guess at that point in high school, I was like, okay, do I want to keep going with, which of these passions I guess is most important to me? So I chose to go with music, and went to the University of Michigan, and my brother was out there with his wife at the time.
Is that why you decided to go out to Michigan?
Yeah.
That's a pretty far distance from Washington.
It is, yeah. And I had also applied to a couple other colleges, but that was essentially why I ended up out there. It was like, and they were like, it's a great school. Just
Michigan's like a top 10 music school.
It is a very good
okay.
music school. So,
because you would have had a full ride potentially to other schools.
Yeah, like Central Washington. So I went out there, and after I was there for 3 years, that's when I went on my mission, and then came back. And
you served where?
Brazil.
Brazil.
Yeah.
Wow.
Belo Horizonte.
Nice.
Which means beautiful horizon. So,
Cool.
and then shortly after I returned, married this guy. So
Just found him on the side of the road?
Just found him.
So you went back to Michigan to finish your schooling?
Yeah, I just had a semester left, I think, right? Was it? Or a year. I had a year left.
And you met each other in a student ward, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
You want to tell us a little bit about that, about meeting each other?
Sure. So I had just gotten back from my mission. Told my mom I was not in any hurry to get married, and she was like, okay, whatever. And then he asked me out. It was my first date back from my mission.
Only date back from our mission.
Wow.
Still going on.
Yeah. So that was that.
Heavenly Father was like, here's the guy.
I know.
This was how soon after you got home from your mission?
I'd been home maybe a month when he asked me out.
Wow.
And then he had been home a couple of months prior
From my
to
mission.
that. Yeah, from his mission. So.
And you were married how soon after that?
We were engaged for
Couple
5 months,
yeah.
I think.
So 6 months after you got home, you were married?
Like
about right?
8.
Oh, 8
Yeah,
months.
8 months.
All right.
Yeah. So.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that was.
So DT, tell us a little bit about your background.
So I was born in Michigan, the Detroit area. My dad worked for Ford Motor Company. Everyone basically there worked for one of the big 3 companies. So he worked for Ford Motor Company, and when I was 8, my brother died of SID, so he was 9 months old when he died. And
This is your younger brother?
Yeah, my younger brother. So I was 8, so he was 9 months old. So he died of SIDS, and that's when I learned. That's what kind of got my dad back into the church. Prior to that, I didn't even know he was a member. My mom would always take us to church and all the kids to church. He was active in the church, but my dad was never active, and I didn't know he was a member. And then when my little brother died, that kind of woke him up or whatever, right? And so where he got back active in the church, and we ended up going to get sealed in the temple shortly thereafter. In fact, I think the morning of, or the night before is when he received the Melchizedek priesthood. When we were in Washington, D.C., that was the nearest temple at the time, Washington, D.C. temple. I think the night before he got the Melchizedek priesthood, and then the next morning we went and got sealed as a family in the temple with our bishop as proxy for my younger brother. And then about a year or two after that, we went to Mexico. They opened up a plant there to build radios, and that's what my dad did. So he went to help open up that plant. So I was there for 2 years. And my parents put us into a school for just it wasn't a regular public school, but it was a school that was all Spanish. So it was total immersion for Spanish. So I learned Spanish that way.
And you were how old at this time?
9 years old. So 9 to 11.
9 to 11.
And I actually put a good effort studying it. Not only was I immersed in it, but I put a good effort studying it. Even at that age, I was competing with my older sister, actually. So we have 5 siblings, 6 of us. And I had an older sister, and I was going to beat her at Spanish, right? So that kind of got me, and I definitely beat her. So
So what part of Mexico was this?
Chihuahua in the north of Mexico, North Desert area. So that was a great experience. Some stories there, but basically I learned Spanish is a key takeaway from that. Came back to the United States, back to Michigan actually, because this was just an assignment with Ford. And then went through high school years. I'm trying to think what else. Became less active probably about when I was 16ish, less active in the church. Just kind of nothing real big deal, just kind of fell away. And I decided to join the Navy, so I joined the Navy. And I guess we can maybe talk more about that potentially later, but I was in the Navy for 6 years, and I was on the submarine force in the Navy.
I'm curious, like, were your parents, I mean, you fell away at 16, how did your parents react to that? Were you, like, did you have other siblings that were kind of falling away, or was your family really strong, or were they?
My mom's always been very strong.
Yeah.
Very strong testimony. In fact, we have a lot of pioneer stock in our family, right back from the 1800s and whatnot. But me growing up, so I was the second oldest, the oldest male, and I'm out of 6. And I'm D.T. I'm the second actually.
Okay.
So they called me D.T. Always just disambiguate myself and my dad. But they kind of, because my dad grew up with 10 siblings. No, they let me do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
They never said anything. So my dad actually got cancer too when I was about 13 or 14. He got leukemia. He was in the hospital. As I recall, in the hospital for like 8 months. In and out of stuff. But I mean, hardcore. He was going to get a bone marrow transplant, things like that. That didn't end up happening. But I mean, he was in the hospital. I mean, in the hospital. And chemo was a little bit. It was years ago when they didn't have quite the technology they have today either. But we got a blessing early on that he was going to live. We had to go through all of it, but we believed in that blessing, right? I as a kid believed in that blessing. It affected me profoundly. I know I had 4.0, and I didn't think about this till recently, but I had 4.0 grades until that happened, and then my junior and senior year, I ended up with I don't even know, 2 points. I didn't even 2 point something, right?
He
that was after when he got leukemia.
Yeah, and I didn't even put it together until probably just the last few years of in my older age, kind of reflecting back on it. I didn't put 2 and 2 together that, I was 4.0 student, my dad gets cancer, and then I'm a 1 whatever student. But I still did barely graduate high school.
Did that kind of contribute to your falling away from the church too? The fact that
I don't associate those two.
Okay.
But who knows? Maybe there's more to unpack there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would go to a club or something, right? And at 16, 17, and I'd come back at 5 in the morning or something like that. Don't think I was doing all kinds of bad stuff, because that's not the case actually. But I'm kind of like Joseph Smith said, right? Don't think that I was doing all kinds of bad stuff. But I mean, I'd be out clubbing till 4 in the morning, right? And I'd come home, and I don't recall ever worrying about, like, they weren't waiting up for. I just did whatever I felt like. My dad treated me like an adult.
Interesting.
Because I think that's the way he was. His dad was absent in his life, and so I think. So my falling away was just kind of I'm sure my mom was praying a lot, right? But I could pretty much do whatever. I never felt like a kid or a teenager. I just did whatever I wanted.
Right.
And I worked hard. I worked multiple jobs too. I was always working more than the legal limit. Even in high school, 10th grade, 11th grade, I was working 40 hours a week at that time. So 80 hours a week when I got out of high school, 2 different jobs.
Yeah.
So I was always working a lot. So I think because I was working and, they just the way things were.
You were an adult, basically.
Yeah, I just did my thing. So I never.
Tell us about your family now.
So we have 6 kids, and ranging right now, our oldest is 14 and our youngest is 3, and someone's knocking at the door right now. So
Probably a 3-year-old.
yeah, but they're great kids. So we started our family in Michigan when we got married there. We were there for a few years, and then we were like, we could live somewhere else. We don't have to stay here.
We chose to move. We wanted to move.
Yes. Well, I was just like, I was getting there. Like, we thought about it. Like, we don't have to be here. So we decided to move out this way, and that's why we've been here for years now. So
you've been in Michigan and then Washington.
we were down in Vancouver for just a year and a half, and then moved up to Battleground. We're on the other side of town for a while, and then moved here.
So this is where we've been the longest. And yeah, we specifically picked Vancouver Battleground area. We actually had our list of pros and cons, and we were looking at Indiana, North Carolina, Florida. We looked at the whole country. We looked at and we chose to come here. Part of it was closer to family, both Utah family and her family in Washington. But and I was stationed out here in the Navy in the Pacific Northwest. I was in the Seattle area, but that seemed kind of overpriced and overcrowded. Mm-hmm. So this was kind of the next closest area, because I just fell in love with the Pacific Northwest, especially after being on a submarine for 3 months, and you open the top and you're in the Pacific Northwest, out where the sub-base Bangor is, which is just part of it was given that land, but part of the requirement was that they didn't develop anything, right? So it's just pristine, gorgeous Pacific Northwest on the coast.
Amazing.
And so not only did I come on a submarine where anything would have looked great, right, but it's the Pacific Northwest. So I think that imprinted something on my brain to where I love it out in this area. So we purposely said, hey, let's go to where we want to be, not just where we ended up. Yeah. And so we came out here. But
you're on your way to
Moses Lake,
yeah.
Moses Lake, Washington.
So it's pretty close to where I grew up. So like an hour and a half away. So.
Okay, that's a great introduction. Thank you.